Hello and welcome to my channel, Talisman Tarot. In this reading I want to ask the cards and Spirit directly through channeling about how your family saw you as a child versus how they see you now. And I have 5 groups here that you can choose from. This will be group number 1, this will be group number 2, this will be group number 3, this will be group number 4, and this will be group number 5. And so I will ask you to use your intuition and choose the group that speaks to you the most, the group that catches your eye, and that group will be your group. And if you need any more time to choose, you can just pause the video and you can find the timestamps for your group in the description box below. And yeah, I'll just start the reading now. Hello, group number 1, you chose this Jolanda Tarot deck, and I will start with some channeling and then I will shuffle the cards for you. So I'll start with the channeling. So, Spirit, can you answer this question for group number 1? First, I want to ask the question on their behalf about how their family perceived them when they were a child. When group number 1, the people who will choose group number 1, when they were a child, how did their family perceive them? Okay, so I'm getting this feeling that you guys are not that happy with your family right now. And I think there is a reason for that. A lot of bad blood, I think. Of course, I asked how your family perceived you when you were a child. And I think that is possibly why you're not on that good speaking terms with your family. And I think your family members were kind of tough on you for no reason. I think I'm sensing something like that you were perceived as a bit of a problematic child. And I'm also getting like something about you being ungrateful, or something, that you were constantly ungrateful for everything your family did for you or something. And I think it might be if you have siblings, I think it's more like coming from them. Like somehow I think your siblings felt like you were constantly nagging and begging your parents for stuff, or for them to do stuff, do things for you, or that you were demanding their attention or something. And I think there's also something about you being very direct towards your parents, that you didn't feel like you had to wrap anything in like you didn't have to cotton wrap things to soften the blow. Like you could just say whatever was on your mind to your parents. And I think your siblings, they were kind of both like jealous of you for like, because you were able to do that, and they had to kind of tiptoe around your parents, and they felt like you could just like you could just waltz right in there and just say whatever was on your mind, and so I think that there's something about that, and I think it's mostly your siblings who thought you were a problem child, or that you were constantly getting into trouble just to get your parents' attention or something. So I'm gonna shuffle some cards and see what. I'm gonna start with your siblings. Like how did your siblings perceive you as a child? And then I'll go from there. Like the Magician. Yeah, I think your siblings were kind of jealous of you because they felt like you had it all. Like you had all the tools in your toolbox. Like you could, and also that you could push the right buttons, maybe especially on your parents. Like you knew exactly what buttons to push in order to get your parents to do something for you. Like you knew the tricks in order to get what you wanted. And I think your siblings felt like they were tiptoeing while you were demanding attention. You demanded also things. You demanded that your parents did normal parenting stuff for you, stuff that other parents did just normally. Like it wasn't. I don't think you demanded a lot, not compared to others, but I think your siblings were tiptoeing and not really, or if you don't have more than one sibling, then it could just be one sibling. But I'm just sensing like a sibling rivalry thing where I think your sibling felt like, sibling or siblings felt like there was, like you had some kind of magic. You had a magic trick up your sleeve, like you could do something and stuff would just magically appear in front of you. Like so yeah, I'm also getting with the lightning that like this woman here, like she's like a female version of Thor. Like I don't know if you're a female, it doesn't really matter, but it's like you seem to have control over the lightning. You had some kind of power in the family that I think your siblings felt like they didn't have. They didn't have the hammer where if you just waved the hammer, something would magically appear in front of you, like lightning. Like it wasn't, and it seemed more effortless for you. And it's like, I think. Yeah, I think your siblings felt like you had some kind of power, maybe not only over your parents, but maybe also over them. Like they felt like you could talk them into doing stuff that they wouldn't have done, and they wouldn't have even thought of doing it, but somehow they did it because you had some kind of power over people where you could kind of charm people into doing stuff. Yeah, your parents, like if you're an only child, then this could also come from your parents feeling like you had some kind of power over them where they couldn't say no to you because you had some kind of charm that, like, you could just charm people so effortlessly. And I think there might also have been I'm also getting something here where I'm sensing that for some of you had older siblings, and that maybe you were the youngest child in the family. If you didn't have siblings, then you could have just been the youngest child in the family, like the youngest of the cousins or something. But like still, I'm getting that maybe you were the youngest, some of you. And I think as the youngest, you could maybe kind of get away with things easier, because it's sometimes easier for the youngest child to get away with stuff. And like but I'm also getting that there's that this thing might have gotten under your siblings' skin a bit. Like they couldn't really deal very well with the fact that you had this power, like, and that you could charm people around you, and that you had this, like, and I'm sensing some jealousy from your siblings. Or cousins or whatever, but I'm also sensing some kind of feeling like your older siblings or older cousins or whatever these are. I'm just seeing these role models, like older role models that were very important role models in your life. These people were, like, you looked up to them and thought they were amazing. Like, you thought they were brilliant, cool, like fashionable, beautiful, handsome. You just looked up to them and just thought, like, one day I want to be just like them. And I think they knew that. They kind of liked it. Like, I think they had this feeling because of the lightning. Like the lightning, like there's this thing where like the lightning comes and then the thunder comes, and the thunder comes like after, and then you count until like you hear the thunder, and then you know how far away the lightning is. And I think like they could tell that you were mimicking them, like you wanted to be like them, like that you looked up to them and saw them as like the person you wanted to become. And I think you also might have kind of mimicked, like had like you might have acted a bit like them, wanted to look a bit like them, wanted to talk a bit like them. And I think this is something I think was positive. I think your older siblings liked that, or at least one sibling I think really enjoyed having like a younger sibling look up to her. I think it's a woman, and this was something she enjoyed. She was but I also feel like she stopped enjoying it, or you stopped doing it at some point. And I think that also created a conflict or made her kind of look down on you, or made her kind of feel like you weren't that like started looking at your flaws and started being kind of a naysayer towards you, and thought you were kind of annoying. And I think it was maybe after she felt like you didn't mimic her anymore, like that you might have gotten a different role model or something, and maybe she felt like she wasn't like your whole world anymore, and like there's something there. And like with the lightning, I think like there's this thing where like I think at some point like the thunder came and the lightning came right after. Like she would say something and she could just hear how you almost just repeated her words exactly. This could also have been a man or a male sibling, a brother, or a male cousin or something. But I think like there were. I think this person felt like this could also have been your dad. I'm sorry, I'm going everywhere with this, but I just feel like there's one person who felt like you just idolized that person throughout your childhood, like in the early stages of your childhood. That person was just your whole world, and when they said something, you would almost repeat it, like exactly word for word afterwards. And I think this person really liked that, liked to hear their own words being repeated in you, like because they could tell that it was because you looked up to them. But I think with time, the thunder, like the thunder came, and then the lightning came a bit longer after that, and a bit longer after that, and then like then maybe at some point the lightning wasn't even visible. Like there might also have been some kind of distance here, where maybe one of your family members felt like there's like at some point in your childhood you were very distant from them, or that you kind of withdrew from them, or maybe physically, like geographically, moved to a different location at some point, which I think was a bit hard, or they moved away from you or something. I think this was difficult for them to handle. Yeah. But I'm gonna shuffle a bit about like what. Now let's just put the sibling thing on the side and just go with the parents. How did your parents perceive you? So with the Three of Cups, I think your parents saw you as very social, a very social child, very charming, very charismatic, very like a bit like a performer, entertainer, someone who liked being, well, the center of attention, but in a good way, where it was so obvious that it wasn't because you wanted people to see you, it was because you wanted other people to laugh, which is very unique. It's a beautiful, like, it's a really beautiful thing when you witness someone who just wants people to laugh, like who's making jokes not because they want people to find them funny, but they do it because they want to see other people laugh. That's it. And I think your parents saw you that way, like someone who was determined to make other people around you happy or joyful or laugh, like make them laugh. And I think your parents thought you were like really funny, especially your writing. I think that you might have written some things when you were a child, and I think your parents read through it and it just cracked them up. Like they just were like banging their knees in laughter. Like it really was. And I'm also getting something like that your dad read some, or dad or mom, I don't know, but read something you had written and said something like, the balls on you, like you have that, you have, it's, I don't know, but like that you had balls, because it was ballsy. What you wrote something that was so bold and courageous, and you didn't care. Like if like it was so obvious that you didn't care how it reflected back on you. You just wanted people to laugh, even if it was like silly or like a bit goofy, or a bit like a bit too much, or a bit like it or just outrageous. Like I'm also getting that kind of vibe, that you wrote something that was completely outrageous and dared to say something that was like just such a big taboo, but you just said it anyways, and like that sort of thing. That and I think like I'm actually getting that the negativity that I channeled in the beginning was coming from people who were not your parents, like that was your siblings or your cousins, or like someone else, like it wasn't from your parents, because I think your parents actually saw, your parents were very proud of you. They saw you as very unique, very like also a bit like a godsend. Like you might have said things that your siblings didn't dare to say, and you might have been like very open and direct towards your parents and said whatever came to your mind, and it might not always have been the easiest thing to listen to from your parents' perspective. Sometimes you might have said some things that kind of was a bit critical towards them, and I think they actually they felt like it was a fresh breath of air. It didn't really bother them in that way. Like it just felt like it was nice to have a child that just said whatever, like who was like also with the elephant, like you just addressed the elephant in the room, and like everybody was already thinking it. So the family needed someone like you, someone who could talk about the elephant in the room when everybody else felt like they couldn't. So yeah. With the 10 of Cups reversed, I think there might have been certain things about you that maybe your parents were a bit annoyed with, and but not to the point where it was a big problem, but it was something that they didn't really know how to handle, because it was like your siblings did not have the same issues. And I don't think you had issues, but you 10 of Cups, when it's upright, it's I usually read it as agreements, making agreements with people, with two parties agreeing on something and kind of making a pact, or kind of making a deal and upholding that deal in a way. And when it's reversed, it might be indicating that maybe as a child you might not have been very good at keeping your end of a deal, like doing your part. Like if you made a deal with your parents to like do something, you might not have been very good at seeing it through. So there might have been something there where they felt like they couldn't really get you to do the things that you were obligated to do, or that they, like if they gave you like a task that you had to fulfill, it might have been hard to make you fulfill it, especially if you didn't see the point in it. Then you might have just neglected it, and they might have tried to say like, oh, but okay, you're obviously not doing your homework, but what if we make a deal where if you do your homework, you'll get an extra hour of television in the weekend or something, like, and then you might have said okay then, but then maybe you weren't really good at keeping those promises, or so there might have been something there where they didn't feel like they could really get you to do something if you weren't, like if your head wasn't in it, like if you weren't determined to do it, you kind of might have been a bit stubborn in doing whatever made more sense to you. Like maybe you were more intuitive, maybe you followed your intuition, and if you felt like something wasn't, like something didn't make sense to you, you would rather just do something that made more sense instead. So I'm gonna shuffle some cards now about how your family perceives you now. How does, maybe your siblings first and then your parents, but how does your siblings perceive group number 1 now? Okay, so with the three of wands, I think your siblings are, it seems like your siblings have been kind of like back and forth, like when it comes to you, like they've had some time where they didn't feel like I'm getting this feeling of long periods of not talking to each other, and I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just life that has happened, and so like sometimes we talk more with our siblings, sometimes we talk less, and so maybe it's actually not that big of a deal. But I think right now, I think they are like more open to contacting or to be in contact with you, like and I think, like, I know that sounds a bit bad because of course it's like it shouldn't be on their terms, like you should also be like it sounds a bit like it's their choice, like that they choose to kind of withdraw from you, and then they choose to kind of come back into your life, and that it seems a bit like it's on their terms and not on yours, and I don't like that sort of energy here. But I'm also just getting that even though it seems like it has been on their terms for a long time, I think now they kind of want to come back, but I think they feel like it's a bit that you're not in reach, like it's like you're like they are right like down here, but you might be up here, and that is maybe a bit hard to actually get there, to get. So maybe I feel like your siblings might feel like you don't want anything to do with them, or that you're tired of their bullshit or something, and that you have been for a while, but I'm also sensing that many of their conflicts with you, I think there are certain there have been conflicts in your adult life or in the past few years, and I think those conflicts are more like they stem from some kind of misunderstanding of each other, like where the expectations are not met, and like maybe you have high expectations of your siblings and then you get disappointed, or maybe your siblings have high expectations of you and then they get disappointed, or maybe both, but it's like this picture here, like it also kind of has that same same kind of vibe, like that, like with the famous like paint, like the illustration of how like it's like the school system is like judging judging this like lion for not being able to, well, it was able to though, but like not being able to climb this tree here, that it actually isn't a tree, but like let's not get into details with it. But like the monkey here, of course, would have less problems climbing it because it's a climbing animal, like it climbs for a living, or not that it climbs for a living, but it climbs just for like, it just always climbs, like that's what monkeys do. But so like judging those two animals for their ability to climb is of course very very unfair, because of course a monkey would always be better at climbing than a lion is, just naturally, and so there might be something about feeling like like you are that there is some kind of comparison between the siblings, like the siblings are constantly compared with each other, but like I don't know, I'm sensing that you're in a bit of like that your sibling group is kind of big or medium sized or whatever, but I'm just sensing some kind of comparison between the siblings, where maybe your parents are comparing you with your siblings, or that your siblings are being compared to you, but there's some kind of, I think your siblings maybe perceive you as like they might have negative, a bit of a negative a negative perception of you, because like right now I don't think they have, but like they have a small negative perception, and it's because they feel like they are constantly being compared to you, and so that kind of gives some kind of bad blood, like it makes for some bad blood between the siblings or something, I don't know. Like your parents might be enforcing this by saying to your siblings like, oh, you should be more like your sister or your brother, I don't know what your gender, but they should be more like you, or maybe it's because of your, like I'm sensing that you have maybe a bit of a more happy-go-lucky outlook on life, or something, where you don't take things so seriously, or you don't you're maybe good at letting things go, actually, which is something I don't think your siblings are very good at. Like I think your siblings kind of hold on to everything, and I think your parents kind of have been saying, maybe, but this might be specific for a few of you, but I feel like for some of you, your parents have said to your siblings or sibling that they should be more like you and not take things so seriously, and not make a big deal out of things, and not hold a grudge for so long over something that's so minor or something. Just move forward instead of always constantly looking backwards or something. I don't know, but with the Lovers here, I think your siblings have maybe this feeling that you always were the favorite, because this card is about favorites. It's about it's about love, I know, but it's also about it's a Lovers, but it's also about like the Cupid's arrow, and how the Cupid's arrow is like chooses the one that's right, and chooses one person. And in other tarot decks, this illustration is 3 people, and like usually 1 man and 2 women, and it's about the man choosing the right woman, and then of course not choosing the one that's not right, or choosing the favorite of those 2, being picky, being and I think maybe your sibling or siblings feel like the parents chose you as the favorite, and I think there is some bad blood there because of it. But I don't think it's true though. But I think it's more like, I think your parents just really enjoyed your directness and your outlook on life, and it wasn't, and maybe they just saw you as a bit easier. Like you seem to not have that many like issues. Every time you had an issue with your parents, you would just say it, and then you would fight about it, and then the next day it would be solved. Like there wasn't a lot of like, it was just a bit simpler in some way. With the Hanged Man, I think your siblings like this card is actually kind of interesting, because like there are 2 fly fish here and a big fish, and like the big fish is really just filling out the place, and like these fly fish, like when you can imagine that these fly fish, they have to kind of get to the water at some point. They can't really survive that long out of the water, so they have to get in there, but it actually kind of seems like there's not a lot of space there for them to fall down into the ocean, and so there might be something about your siblings feeling like you might take a lot of space in the family, and that when that somehow they feel like you're the reason why they don't have a lot of, that they don't get a lot of attention or something, is because you take the attention away from them, which is kind of like, as I said before, I don't like, that's not how your parents see it. Or saw it as when you were younger, or like they saw it more as you being this entertainer who of course got their attention, but it was because you wanted them to laugh, you wanted to give something to them. It was like a gift. It was like you were making them happy by, and so of course you got the attention, but it was also like, it wasn't selfish. It seemed very selfless at the time, and it still does, I think. And And I think your siblings didn't really do that. Like your siblings didn't really think about like making your parents laugh or lightening the mood or making everybody happy. Like they just wanted the attention just for doing nothing at all to actually gain it. And that is also how it should be. And I'm not saying that you should have to do something to get your parents' attention, but I think it was just a bit easier for you because you did something, you gave something of yourself to your parents, and you actually were not constantly thinking about getting something back. You just wanted to give. And I think that was why it was so unbalanced, or it felt that way for your siblings. But they could just have done a bit more, I think. But yeah, but I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna shuffle some more about how your parents view you now. How does group number one's parents view them now? So I think with the Ace of Pentacles, they see you as someone who's like someone who dares to start your own thing. I think I'm sensing that some of you are doing something right now where you are doing your own thing, and I think they really want you to do that. I also getting something here about your parents wanting you to invest in yourself. That don't be afraid of investing in yourself. Don't be afraid of taking a chance, because that's something you've always been good at doing. So I'm sensing something about your parents wanting you to know that you should go for whatever you're dreaming of doing. If you're thinking about writing a book, do it, because you deserve it, and you owe it to yourself to try it out, because you were always good at writing. And that's something I'm getting, that you were always so good at writing when you were younger. You were so funny. Everything you wrote was so funny. And I think your parents just really want you to just go for it and try and write something. That was something, like, I think they, with the Emperor here, I think your parents see you as someone, like someone they don't worry about. I think they worry about your other siblings, but for you, you're someone they never really worried about, and your siblings might not feel the same way. They might have felt like, oh, you were always the one your parents worried about or something, but it's not true. They always knew that you would be fine. Whatever you would do, you would be fine. Like that, there wasn't really anything to worry about, because you would always find your way. With the Four of Cups, yeah, I think like there is something about, like, you have, well, maybe your parents want you to get pregnant, but for others of you, this might just be the pregnancy of some kind of creative project, that, like, you need to create something and that could be a book. Like, writing a book is also like creating a child, like in your mind, and birthing it out on paper, like in words. And I think, yeah, I think there's definitely something there. about either your parents wanting you to have children very badly, or that they want you to do some kind of passion project, some creative project, art. With the Four of Swords reversed, I think they want you to just relax and not be so worried, because that's also maybe one of the reasons why they feel like they have never had to worry about you, is because you do that worrying yourself, like so. But maybe you shouldn't. Maybe it don't, like everything always works out for you, and they are very positive about that. Like everything has always worked out fine, and don't be worried. Don't be anxious about what the future brings, because there's nothing scary there. And with the Two of Pentacles reversed, I think they just feel like it's just, don't juggle too many things at once. Make time for the things you're good at. Make time for entertaining others. Make time for making people laugh. Find joy again in making people laugh. And find back to maybe some of you have kind of lost your way in your adulthood and kind of gotten a bit away from that purity that you had as a child, where you just wanted to make the world laugh, and you just wanted to have all these funny observations of the world and just share it with everybody, because you wanted to entertain them. And maybe find back to that entertainment gene that you have, that this need to make people around you happy and laugh, and because you have it and it's so rooted in you, it's such a big part of you. And yeah, and it's so easy for you if you just get back into it, like but I think maybe you're not really good at doing it when you're too stressed out with too many things going on. And maybe I feel like your parents kind of see you as a bit stressed out right now, that you need to prioritize your time and figure out what's most important in life. So yeah, but that's all I have for you. Group number 1, I hope this reading was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want a personal reading from me, check the description box below for more information on how to get one. And yeah, have a great day, and bye. Hello, group number 2, you chose this Tarot de Marseille tarot deck, and I will start with some channeling, and then I will shuffle the cards for you. So okay, group number 2, the people who will choose group number 2. Spirit, can you answer this question for group number 2? How did group number 2's family perceive group number 2 as a child? How did their family perceive them as a child? Group number 2. I'm getting something about you being a bit silly as a like some goofiness, silliness. I think your family thought you were a bit like a bit of a troublemaker, but in a very cute way, like always that you were always doing something very imaginative or very like you had a very vivid, or like you had a very vivid imagination. Like your imagination would run wild, and I think sometimes you would do something around the house where you might have taken some stuff and like pretended it was something else, or like had your, like maybe used your toothbrushes to like act as if they were dolls talking to each other or something like that. And I think maybe sometimes your parents didn't really like you doing it because like maybe they found it a bit disgusting to have like that toothbrush rubbed against like someone else's toothbrush or something. I don't know. But and maybe sometimes it was also other things where they felt like maybe you did it with expensive stuff. Like sometimes you might have like had like some kind of make-believe game that you had where but you used maybe some like an expensive watch to kind of look like something else in that game of make-believe. And so like, but I think your parents really enjoyed seeing you using your imagination, and I think they saw you as very creative, very like you had this whole world in your mind, and it seemed like a very marvelous world, like it's a spectacular world that you had created for yourself in your brain. And I think they had sometimes I feel like they might have wanted to be a part of it more, where they just felt like you were so much in your own world that you didn't really see the world around you, or you didn't really notice what was going on, and maybe you weren't very present all the time. And I think maybe they wanted to be more like involved, I think. And that maybe also if you had siblings, maybe they also wanted to kind of be involved more, like be part of your, like be part of whatever you were doing, like as a child. But I think that, like, I think maybe your parents were a bit worried that you had maybe too many imaginary friends and stuff like that, that it was maybe like that it maybe at times seemed a bit psychotic, but it wasn't. I don't think it was, but maybe like, or maybe they. Yeah, I think they might have just thought it was weird that you had so many imaginary friends, and that's something I'm getting, that you had some imaginary friends, or maybe just one, but that it was or that you were talking to yourself a lot or something. Maybe you were a psychic kid. Like maybe you had maybe you could talk to dead people or something. So maybe that was the thing, but I don't know if they knew that. Maybe they just thought you were a bit strange. But so I think with the Queen of Cups, I think okay, maybe they did actually know that something was like that you were spiritual, or that you had some psychic abilities. I think for some of you at least, I think they knew that you were able to do something like that it might have been because you saw something extra. And it doesn't have to, like, even though I'm sensing that some of you had a slightly non-believing family, like not the most, like not a family of like full-on believers in the paranormal and stuff like that. But I think, well, for some of you there might have been, like maybe because you have maybe one of your parents is a psychic, or maybe your grandmother is, or someone in your family is. So maybe it already is, or maybe it already was something that your parents were watchful of. Like they might have already known that there was a possibility that you would have inherited those abilities. So maybe for some of you it was something that your parents and your family was already open towards. But for others of you, I'm sensing a bit of a closeness, like that your parents weren't that open to spirituality and psychic abilities and stuff like that. But I think there might have been something, like even if they were non-believers, I think they still believed in children having psychic abilities. Like that seems to be a fact for some people more than it seems more easy for people to comprehend the idea of a child being able to see dead people than an adult being able to do the same thing. Like many people have this belief that children are more open, and then they get closed off, and then you can't do it anymore. But like that psychic abilities kind of are something in the childhood, and then you grow out of it or something. I don't know. Also, why many people believe that children can remember their past lives, and then they forget over time, and like there's a lot of like wonder and mystery when people, like even in non-believers, that when they think of childhood, like they think of this, like childhood is where all the strange things happen, and then you become an adult, and then they stop or something. I don't know. But I think they kind of just I think for many of you, I think your parents kind of thought, well, yeah, that's a psychic kid talking to people who are not in the room, and that's a fact. Okay. And we take it from there, and that's something she's going to grow out of, or he. I don't know what your gender, but yeah. So I think for many of you, they might have just known that you might have either. But I'm also getting that for some of you, they just thought you had a vivid imagination, but. Yeah, but I think your parents saw you as very sensitive and very and it is like they saw you as someone, as a child, was very creative, very imaginative, but also very sensitive, and maybe that it kind of all kind of makes sense. Is that with creativity comes some level of sensitivity as well. So I think maybe your parents also believed you were hypersensitive, or that your level of sensitivity wasn't average. So, and also with this card here, Eight of Swords, this is also a card of about anxiety. So maybe they also saw you as a very anxious child. Maybe a child with some issues, like anxiety issues mostly, like being scared of a lot of things, maybe also having certain fears, or maybe you had some fears, like a fear of heights, or a fear of dying, or a fear of choking, or a fear of spiders, or a fear of small places, like claustrophobia, or something like that, or maybe all of the above, or and I think they saw you as just very frightened child, like very silly and goofy sometimes, very imaginative, creative, and they saw you having these fun games that you played with yourself or your imaginary friends, or and they saw you kind of have this simple, very, that was kind of they looked at it and thought, well, that's nice that she has that, or she or he has that, and also you might have been really good at drawing or painting or something, and I think your parents thought you were really, really talented, but then there was this side of you that was really, really anxious, and I think they didn't know what to do about it. They didn't know how to really deal with the anxiety, and I think it kind of was hard on them to see you so anxious. And I also, if you have siblings as well, I think it also was hard on them too. Because I think you might also have had an anxiety towards throwing things away because you might have believed that every object had like emotions, like the like the milk carton, you know, had feelings, so you couldn't just throw it in the trash because then it would hurt its feelings or something like that. And so you might have had this phase when you were a child where you didn't want to throw anything away, like you started crying every time your parents went out with the trash because you felt like all the things in the trash can was just sad for being thrown away, like for or something. I don't know, but and that also comes with the imagination, the feeling like maybe you took everything and made it a toy, like you could play with like a pencil and a piece of paper and act as like and give the piece of paper a personality and feelings and emotions and thoughts and dreams, and then see that piece of paper be put into the trash. It might have just been really hard. I don't know if this is very specific for just a few of you, and that some of you just think, what the hell is she talking about? I don't know, but I'm just sensing that this is something that many of you have struggled with, and I think your parents didn't really know how to deal with your anxiety, how to kind of stop it or maintain it, or not maintain it, but kind of find a way to not make it escalate, because it might have sometimes escalated and you didn't know how to react because all the emotions just were running wild, and your parents didn't know what to do to kind of calm you down because they had to throw out the trash at some point. And they and like stuff like that, and they couldn't say, like they couldn't, like if your fear was, if you had a like crippling fear of spiders, like your parents couldn't do anything to prevent that from ever happening. Like you would, like they couldn't control a spider coming into your room. Like they didn't have the control to kind of make it so that you wouldn't get in a situation like that. So I think they felt very useless. Like they couldn't really do anything, and they didn't know what to do. And with the Six of Swords reversed, I think people around your parents wanted them to do something, and maybe also your siblings, if you have siblings, they might have tried to get your parents to kind of send you to a doctor or find help elsewhere, because your parents didn't really know how to deal with it. And so I think they had a lot of advice from others on like that they should contact someone who knew like what you were dealing with and knew how to deal with that. But I think your parents didn't want to. I think that your parents really just wanted to figure things out on their own. They didn't want someone else to kind of... I think they were kind of stubborn in keeping it in the family and not seeking help elsewhere, because I think maybe your parents were a bit proud, or like they didn't want someone else getting involved in their issues, or like in their parenting. Like they wanted to have, like, do their own parenting. They didn't want any advice from others, and they knew what their child needed, and so they didn't want someone out from the outside who didn't even know you to kind of get in and like mess with your brain and make you maybe feel like you're... I think I'm getting this feeling from your parents, even though they didn't know what to do, especially about the anxiety thing. It could also have been about the psychic ability thing, that they didn't know how to, like, because they didn't know what to do to help you with that. But I also I think it's mostly the anxiety part, and I feel like they didn't know how to help you with the anxiety, but they didn't want a doctor to check to like, they didn't want you to talk to a doctor about it, because I think they were afraid that if you talk to a doctor, that the doctor would give you a diagnosis or tell you that you suffered from this or that or whatever, that you had some kind of like disease or something. And I think your parents just felt like that you didn't have a disease, you had anxiety, and they didn't feel like it would benefit you if it was being treated like a disease. So I think they didn't want to get help from the outside because they didn't want you to be labeled. Did they do the right thing? Maybe. I don't know. But of course, I'm also sensing that maybe you could have benefited from someone at least telling you that the anxiety you were feeling wasn't abnormal, that many other children suffered from the same, and maybe you could have even benefited from maybe meeting some other children with the same issues as you, just to make you feel like you weren't completely alone in the world with all these dark thoughts. And so there could have been certain beneficial things that could have come out of it. But I don't know. I think they just didn't want you to feel different, like there was something wrong with you. And I think your siblings kind of wanted your parents to kind of acknowledge that there was something wrong with you, which I think your siblings didn't really make this easier. If you had siblings, then I'm just sensing that maybe your siblings kind of wanted you to feel different, like wanted you to, like, wanted the whole world to know what a strange, weird sibling they had. So like there's that kind of thing where like that's not very nice, but maybe it is like a sibling thing, like wanting your sibling kind of to suffer is not necessarily the least sibling-like thing to do. Like that's like, even though it's not a good thing, it's not, but it's maybe not very unusual. especially if you were getting a bit too much attention from your parents because of the anxiety, then they might have wanted you to just be sent away to some kind of clinic or something, because then like they could have their parents for themselves or something. So it kind of could have been something like that or whatever. But I'm gonna shuffle and see like how your family sees you now. Okay, so with the Tower here, I think they see you now differently and than they saw you when you were younger. I think I think they have realized that you're not as fragile as they thought you were when you were a child, that you're actually very strong. You were just going through a lot when you were a child, but you were actually very strong. You were not very sensitive, you just had a lot going on, and you dealt with it in a strong way. And I think now they know that you're maybe even the strong one in the family. But maybe it's actually all the others that are being a bit sensitive all the time. And I feel like you have very much grown into yourself and grown into your identity, and I feel like you are very much in alignment with your true self. Like you're very comfortable in your own personality, I think, and in yourself. Like and I think you have some kind of confidence that I think your family has noticed, that the thing that they picked up on when you were a child, this feeling of you being so anxious, and I think they thought it was the insecurities, and it might have been insecurities, but I think now they feel like it maybe wasn't like that, even though it might have still been that. But like I think now they think because I think they have noticed that they can say things to you that are mean and horrible things, and you don't let it get to you. Like you just say like, whatever, man, like whatever, like and like they know that if the tables were reversed, like they would, like if you treated them the way they treat you sometimes, they know they wouldn't handle it. And so I'm sensing that this is more like coming from your siblings, or some like that your siblings feel like you put up with a lot in the family. So, and your whole position in the family, like I think there might be certain things where like there might be some conflicts here and there. Some people in your family might not be talking to each other. Some people might be ignored. Some people might be like there might be a lot of like small conflicts going on here and there, and maybe big ones sometimes. But it's like you just ride through them. And even when you are the one being ignored by some of the family members, it's like you can take it. Whereas I feel like maybe one of your siblings or like someone in your family feels like if they were the one being ignored by another family member, they wouldn't be able to handle that. They would take that too hard, and that they would let that ruin their life. Like they would, so they would be different. It would be different for them. So I think they see you as very strong. Like you take a lot, and it's like you don't let anything break you. With the Page of Swords, I think your family sees you as possibly the sanest one, which is kind of ironic, since they saw you as this insane child, maybe. But again, maybe you just grew out of it, and like all of the other like weird kids, which we all were. We all were super weird when we were kids, and that is childhood, really. It is just a weird time where children are being weird, and everybody like are just acting as if like the children are not being weird, just so that they don't feel bad. But the truth is that all children are super weird. Like and so yeah, I think they saw you as a bit weird as a child, and a bit insane, and like a bit maybe especially your siblings might have felt like you were a bit like psychotic for talking to your imaginary friends and playing make-believe with like toothbrushes and kitchen cutlery or something, or like I don't know, but I think like now they actually see you as the sane one. Like you're the one who's always rational. Like when people come to you with a problem, you're the one actually looking at it in a rational way, like being able to actually look at it in like from an objective like perspective, like and with the Emperor reversed, I think your family sees you as someone who's very in touch with your feelings, like and maybe some of your family members are not really that in touch with their feelings. Like maybe your family has kind of like a bad rep for like shoving everything under the carpet and acting as if like all the problems are not there. Like so maybe your family family members are not very good at talking about their feelings, and I think you are. I think you're more open about, like you can say to them, like if they say something to you and it hurts you, you're maybe better at just telling them right away when they hurt you that what they said was hurtful, and that is not something you you will accept. And so maybe you're good at just reacting in the moment. When someone says something horrible, you're better at just saying, like, I didn't like that. Please don't ever say that to me again, because that is really hurtful. And you shouldn't say that to anyone, because nobody deserves to be treated that way. And you might be good at just saying it in the moment, and just saying what you feel, how you felt when you were being, when they came at you. And I think your family feels like that's a bit strange, because that's not something they do, because they are more the type of people who get passive aggressive about things. And so when people say something mean to them, they don't react in the moment, but they get really, really mad, and then it intensifies over time, where they just keep thinking about it over and over again until it's so big, and then they explode at that person, like a lot of time, and then like a lot of days after it actually happened, like, or months after it happened, or even years, like. And I think you're just better at just reacting in the moment and saying how you feel, and not being passive aggressive about things. With the Knight of Cups reversed, I think maybe your family feels like you're I think your family sees you as someone who hasn't found love. Maybe some of you are not in a relationship currently, so maybe your family feels like you're not. Maybe they feel like you're not completely grown up until you actually find get a family. Or if you are in a relationship right now, then maybe they feel like it's not a good relationship, or that you have bad taste in men or women, or that you choose the wrong kind of partners. They might have an opinion about that. That you're a bit too overbearing when you're in a relationship, that you are not that maybe you should be more, like, hold a grudge more if your partner says something bad, or like instead of just, well, I think you react in the moment, but I think maybe your family feels like certain things, like if certain things are said to one of your other family members, it might be enough for them to just cut all contact and just never talk to that person again. That's kind of their style, is to just ignore people if they say something wrong to them, and just cut them out of their life. And I think that's not your style. I think you just believe more in communicating, finding solutions to problems, talking things through, figuring out, like, finding the core to the problem, why it happened, and then just find out how to make sure it never happens again. And I think that's like a process that is very foreign to your family. Like, they don't understand that. They just would rather just remove themselves from whatever uncomfortable situation people put them in, and then never look back. With the Five of Swords reversed, I think, I think there might also be something about you just there might be something about them feeling like you're a bit self-righteous sometimes, or like sanctimonious, that sometimes you get like this, like you have the moral high ground, and sometimes I think your family members feel like you kind of take advantage of, or kind of have a bit of a field trip over having the moral high ground, that it's too fun for you to be the one looking down at them and telling them all, like, everything they do wrong. That sometimes I think they feel like I think that's like what I'm getting at from this card. And it's like, if you win an argument, you get too, like, you're a bad, it's like you're a bad winner. Like you get too, like, up on your high horse for being the one who won the argument. Like you're being, or that you like to shove it in their face, like, or something. There also might be something about, like, you not needing them anymore. Like that you've made it quite clear to your family that you don't need them, that you don't have to kind of deal with their bullshit because you're not obligated to do so, because you don't really need them. You live an independent life. You don't have, like, there's nothing, like, you're just spending time with them, like, because you want to, not because you need to, and that you can just remove yourself from the situation at any time. And I think you've done, like, and that it's not in the same way as they remove themselves. Like, they remove themselves from situations if they get uncomfortable in them, but they do it in like this dramatic way where they're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you anymore, so now we're not going to talk to each other for 10 years and never ever like be in the same room together because I'm mad at you for one thing that you did wrong. Like, I think you just, that's not your style. But you might have said that, like, it might have just made it clear to your family members that you're there out of your free will. You can walk away from the family. You don't need the family, and so you don't need to be a part of all the drama. Like, you could just remove yourself from the drama, and it, like, so they shouldn't, like, I think you might have put that, it might have been something that came up in an argument where you just said, like, said something like that. And I think your family feels like that, like, that you're shoving it in their face, that you don't need them, and that it's not a nice thing to do, like, to point out that you don't need them in your life, because then it might have made them feel like they didn't matter to you. But that wasn't what you said. I think you just made it clear that they couldn't just do anything they, like, and expect you to stick around. Like, that there were limits to that, and that they should also be careful not to cross those limits, because, like, yeah, but I think there is something more. I think it's better, like it's a better strategy to kind of threaten your family members with like, and say like, well, if you behave, I won't have a reason to kind of withdraw from the family, so please just behave, instead of just waiting until they make a mistake and then just ignore them for the rest of your life because of that mistake. Like it's a different thing. I don't know, but I think you're doing the right thing. I think you're handling this extremely well. Families are complicated, but I think you have like you got a very healthy look on it, and I think it's good. I think they see that. I think they see that you're better at this than they are. This whole family thing, like. But yeah. But that's all I have for you, group number 2. I hope this reading was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want a personal reading from me, check the description box below for more information on how to get one. And yeah, have a great day and bye. Hello, group number 3. You chose this Tarot del Fuego tarot deck, and I will start with some channeling and then I will shuffle the cards for you. So group number 3. Spirit, how did group number 3's family see them as a child? How did group number 3's family see them as a child? I'm sensing that that there was some conflicts going on when you were a child. A lot of things were happening. I think in your childhood, a lot of things around you, a lot of things around your family, a lot of things happened to your family or within the family. And I think it's like a lot of things at the same time, like everything just kind of just falling down all at once. And so I think I don't know if your parents got divorced or something, but like I'm just sensing that your childhood was difficult. A lot of things happened that you weren't in control over, and your siblings weren't in control over it either, if you have siblings. And it's like something, possibly something between your parents, like conflicts between your parents that had nothing to do with you directly, but you were very much involved in it. And I think your family saw you as a child, but I don't think they saw you. Like your parents might not have seen you that much. Like they didn't see you. Like they saw you running around, they saw you play out on the playground, they saw you eat your cereal in the morning, and they saw you make your homework, or they saw you do things, but they didn't see you. Like they didn't observe you. They didn't see like a child with a personality. They saw a child, and they saw a lot of problems around having children. I think that there's also maybe something about your parents being either very young when they had children, or that they just weren't maybe very equipped for the task, that it might not have come very naturally to them to be parents. And so I don't think, I think they might have kind of overlooked a lot of things. They didn't acknowledge a lot of things. They didn't notice a lot of things. And so they saw you, but they just saw a child. And they saw a child that needed to go shower. They saw a child that needed to do their homework. They saw a child that needed to go to bed in time and shouldn't make a fuss about going to bed at the right time, the scheduled time, because they just saw a child that needed to have a certain amount of hours of sleep. And so it was important that this child would go to sleep at this hour, and like everything was just more like practical. Like it was more of a task, like watching you as if you were a bit of a checklist. Like, okay, every morning your parents would just like wake up, okay, do like everything, like cereal in the morning, remember all the right books that you needed for school, remember to shower, remember to like get you in clean clothes and get everything. And I think like that was just what they saw. Like they looked at you as a child and saw all these tasks that needed to be done. They might not have seen past those tasks, and so they never saw the child within like those tasks, and I don't even think they were very good at those tasks either. Like they weren't like, and that was maybe also because why they were. It was all they saw, because that was hard enough on its own, like making sure you got in the shower, making sure you got clean clothes, making sure that you ate something, making sure that you made your homework, everything. Like that was hard. Just that was hard to make it work, make everything, make all the ends meet, make everything, like, and then like every day was just a struggle to get those basic things done. And then next day the list would just be start over, like, and over again and over again and over again, until it was just routine, until it was just like snoozing through life, kind of like a zombie. And I think I'm sensing that your parents were very stressed out, had a lot of issues on their own, had a lot of issues at work, had a lot of issues within their relationship with each other, had a lot of conflicts with each other. And I think, I'm very sorry to say this because it's very hard, but I don't think they paid a lot of attention to who you were. So they didn't see you. They saw a child, they didn't see you. I'm gonna shuffle some cards and see what the cards have to say about how your family, especially your parents, how they saw you as a child. Yeah, with the Seven of Pentacles, I think they saw you as someone who I think they saw, like, what they saw in you was their own lacks, their own lack of parenting, their own lack of time, their own lack of energy, their own, like, they saw themselves in you. Like, they saw themselves reflected, all their flaws. Not that you had any flaws, but they saw how their own incompetence was being, like, was looking back at them. Like, they mirrored themselves and saw how their incompetence was affecting you, and so they saw that in you. Like, when they looked at you, they saw a child that needed more from them, but they couldn't give it to you. A child that deserved more, a child hungry for attention but wasn't getting any. A child maybe also hungry, just like, I'm also sensing that for some of you it might have been a very difficult upbringing with, like, where your parents had issues getting food on the table, like, not under the table, but like food on the table, like getting it, like getting all the basic needs, like making ends meet. And I think they saw that when they saw you. They saw how they weren't making ends meet, and that it was affecting you, and that you were the loser in all of this. I think they were actually very sad about it. With the Seven of Pentacles here, like, you can also tell, like, with the picture here, it's a man who's like walking through fire, losing his wings that should have helped him, get over the fire, like, without getting his feet burned, and all of this for a few pennies from this, like a few golden eggs from this golden hen here, like scraping together pennies in order to make things work out, and working a lot overtime on and just to make it work out, like. And I think your parents, or maybe especially one of your parents, worked really, really hard and worked a lot overtime, and I think they saw, like that might also have been why they didn't really see you. Like they didn't know who you were. Like they didn't really get to know you, like because they didn't have the time to get to know you, because they were always at work, and when they got home from work, they were tired and didn't have the energy. And yeah. With the Queen of Cups reversed, I think with the Queen of Cups and Queen of Swords reversed, both of them reversed, I think your parents kind of quickly realized what you like it wasn't so much about finding out who you were, it was more about finding out who you weren't. Like that seemed to be like the easiest way to do it for your parents, because I don't know if they thought that would kind of save some time, I don't know, but it was like they didn't have the time to really get to know you, so they could just like figure out like rather quickly, like make a checklist, like, but you're not this kind, like, and you're not this, and you're not this, and you're not this, and that is of course a bit of a negative way of looking at it, like, but also maybe a bit practical, like it's just figuring out, okay, they didn't have the time to get to know you, so they just signed you up for football classes. Then you went to football classes or football games or football whatever, football training, I don't know. And then you went to that and you didn't like it, and then you said to your parents that you didn't like that, and then they knew, okay, yeah, that you don't like football. Then that's not who you are. Then you're not someone who likes to play football. So now we can scratch that out of the list. You're not the football type of person, and then okay, but what about singing? And then they would sign you up, and I feel like they wouldn't even ask you, but maybe it was because like asking you would kind of make this whole like conversation was that I don't know if they just didn't want the conversation, or they just was a bit like it might have been a bit impulsive, or like then like signed you up for singing classes or something, and then I just sent you and then you would say, well, you didn't like singing or something, and then they would know, okay, yeah, then you're not that type of person, and you're not the type of person who likes to sing. But then like instead of just asking you like who you were, like, and it feels like it would have just been easier to just ask you and have a conversation with you about it, but it seems like they just signed you up for different activities, mostly probably because well, that is also a cop-out. Like the normal cop-out for parents is like when they feel like it's not a cop-out, like that's a negative way of saying it, but like it's a way of like when parents are really, really stressed out and don't have like time for their children, it is sometimes easier to sign them up for something, so that then while they are at said activity, then they get some time off to do something else, like then like to finish their work, to do something like so. So it might have just been that they just found some activities so that, like, to make it work, to get more time to do their work, or I don't know. And I think they did that a lot, just signing you up for different things that you didn't like, and then just knowing, okay, yeah, then, like, and I think they kind of could make out some kind of image of who you were out of just thinking of, like, you're not, like, you're not interested in football, you're not interested in singing, you're not interested in learning a musical instrument, you're not interested in, like, then they could, like, or also, like, might have figured out, like, that maybe you're that you're not that maybe they figured out quite early on that you're not a bookworm, but you're also not you're also not creative, like, or maybe they didn't think you were, or maybe they tried to get you to do some creative stuff, but kind of thought, well, maybe you're not that type of person who enjoys drawing, or and maybe you don't enjoy reading for fun, or maybe you do, but it's like it's so strange that they didn't just ask you. And I'm just feeling like they never really figured out what your talents were, which is a bit sad, but it's also something that happens a lot in like happens most of the time. That parents don't actually realize their children's strengths, what they are good at. And sometimes they figure out what they are bad at, and instead of figuring out what they are good at, and that's not good for the child. I think it's bad for a child to only have your parents focus on what you can't do instead of figuring out what you actually can do. And I think that's sad. And that's what I'm also getting at with the star reversed. I think your parents didn't see you as, like, the star that you are. Like, and all children are stars in their own way. Like, all children have one thing, like something that they are amazing at. And many times parents find that thing, and many times parents don't. And I think in this situation here, I think your parents didn't. I think they didn't find that one thing that made you special. They might not have had the time to figure it out, which is sad. So yeah, but I'm gonna shuffle, but I'm also gonna do some channeling about how your family sees you now. So Spirit, how does group number 3's family see group number 3 now? How does their family see them now? I think they have realized that they weren't attentive, that they were especially your parents. I think your parents have realized now that they were neglective, as like when you were a child, that they didn't see your brilliance. They didn't see like I think some of you might have a very, very obvious talent, and maybe your teachers were really good at noticing this talent, and maybe they noticed it before your parents did. But I think whichever came first, like I think they realize now that you had a talent, and that they didn't see it, and that there were a lot of things that they didn't see when you were a child. A lot of things that they probably should have encouraged you to do. And I think it might be have something to do with writing. Like I think some of you have always like been really good at writing, and maybe your teachers noticed that very early on. But I think your parents might not, even when your teachers were praising you, your parents might still have felt like they didn't quite believe it, or that I think it was more of their own feeling of like feeling bad for not noticing, like when a teacher comes and says like, oh, I noticed something brilliant about your child, then instead of being like, wow, like most of us would be like, oh, that's amazing. But I think when we are so insecure about ourselves and are so like down on ourselves and feel like we're doing a bad job as a parent, like when we feel that way, I think hearing a teacher praise our child for something we didn't notice at all, that just completely flew over our head. Many people react by saying like, no. We would have noticed if that was like, we would have noticed if our child was like the next like the next like, I don't know, Hemingway or whatever. Like we would have known, like, and I think they kind of might have made it into something smaller than it actually was, which is horrible to think about. And made it so much worse, but it's more like them not wanting to see that they missed something, that there was something about you that they missed. And so they didn't want to acknowledge it, because acknowledging it would mean that they also accept responsibility for not noticing it. Like then they accept the thought of them not seeing it, not noticing. Then it would make them have to take blame for that, like and acknowledge that something flew over their head. And I think they just didn't want to acknowledge it, and so they just acted as if it wasn't there for a bit of time. I think that's horrible. I'm sorry. With the 5 of Pentacles, I think they might, like, I think your family right now sees you as an outsider. Maybe you did kind of withdraw a bit from the family, like maybe you have in recent years kind of let go of your family and felt like you didn't need them anymore. And and you could do a lot on your own, and that I think that makes them sad. I think they feel like you're leaving them a bit out in the cold, like giving them the cold shoulder or something. And maybe also like with this eye here, where there's a house in the eye, but the house is upside down. And I think maybe there might be something where especially your parents, they don't want to, maybe they still don't really want to acknowledge what they did, that they made mistakes as parents. Even though they know, I think they know, like deep down they know, but they also know that they tried their best, and that they might have a certain feeling that they couldn't have done it differently, like they didn't have enough time, and that it wasn't completely their fault, even though they chose to have children, but they still feel like if they had more money, if things had been different, then they would have not made all the mistakes that they made. If life had been different, if this and that and this and that hadn't happened, then things would have been different. But I think like that's something you say when you don't want to take the blame, like you don't want to or don't want to accept responsibility for your mistakes. Then like, of course, like we can all say like if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened, then I would have been a success, like, or something like, but then everything would have been different. Then I would be living in a mansion or somewhere, like you could that sort of thing, like it never ends really, because you can always find something to put the blame on for your own bad decisions. And I think when they are in this state of mind where they don't want to acknowledge what they did, they don't want to acknowledge that they made mistakes, then I think they just see you as someone who's looking at looking at your childhood home, like in this picture here, like looking at your childhood home, but you're looking at, but they feel like you look at it upside down. That you're seeing things as worse than they actually were, which I don't think is the truth, but it makes them, it helps them cope in some way. It makes them feel like if they can just tell you, if they can just gaslight you into believing that everything that happened in your childhood was normal, and that you didn't have a horrible upbringing, that everything was that you had it so much easier than everybody else, and that you should just be like grateful for whatever you got or something, like if then that makes them, that makes it easier for them to cope, and makes them feel like they weren't complete failures as parents. And I think they feel like you look at it upside down, like you're not seeing the true picture. And in a way, it's not just gaslighting. I think in a way, they believe in this lie. Like they they have tried so much to convince you, and maybe also your siblings if you have some, that everything that went on in your childhood was completely normal and average and regular. And I think by now, I think they might be at that point where they actually are starting to believe in whatever they convinced you guys. That believe that it wasn't really that bad. So with the Knave of Wands reversed, this is Page of Wands. So I think they see you as someone who just wasn't passionate about anything. Like they kind of put it on you today. Like even like that the reason why they couldn't find what made you special when you were a child, they kind of put that responsibility on you and like makes it seem like it was your fault because you weren't passionate about anything, like that you were maybe really good at writing, but they never knew about it, and it wasn't because they and they feel like they couldn't have known about it because you weren't passionate about it. If you had been passionate about it, they would have noticed, or something like that. That is, again, like trying to make it as if it was your fault. But also, like a parent also has a certain responsibility to first of all, figure out what makes their child special, what they are especially good at, but also a responsibility to help them become passionate. Children are not all, like, sometimes we have to kind of get a push into not only finding our passion, but also to maintain that passion. It's very easy to lose your passion if you're not being encouraged by a parent. Like, it's very easy for parents to kind of just let their children go from one thing to like have one hobby and then like have it for a week and then lose interest and start something else. Like, it's very easy for a parent to just let the child run its own course, or like go do whatever they want, and not push them into doing anything, and just because then, like, I think that's also like they also should take some kind of responsibility for just letting. Like, I am sensing that maybe you started a lot of different hobbies as a child and then lost interest very quickly, and then stopped and then started something new, and then stopped and started something new. And of course you did that because you were allowed to do so. Every child would do that if they have the choice to do so, because all children lose interest. Like, they have like a great idea to start tennis, and then a week later they realize, oh, it wasn't really that fun. But then it's a parent's job to say, well, maybe wait, maybe try next time, like next week, and go to training next week. Maybe you will fall in love with it eventually, and get into it. Like, of course, not that you should have been playing tennis, but like, I don't know, but I don't have any like don't have all the answers, but I just feel like your parents are kind of not seeing, like if you recently criticized your parents for some things in your childhood, I feel like they haven't been open to listen and acknowledge any of it and accept responsibility for any of it. They just see you as kind of an ungrateful child or ungrateful person for bringing up the past, and that you see the past negatively, more in a more negative way than it actually was. That it actually was a beautiful childhood that you had, but you just missed it, or you don't remember it correctly or something. And I think that is very toxic. And I think they put a lot of the blame on you for not, like, that the reason why you never stuck with anything was and like never got great at playing the violin, even though maybe you would have been like the best violin player in the world if you had someone to just push you instead of just letting you leave it after a week, like that sort of thing. But again, like it's not a conversation you can have with your parents, because they just put it, they just, like if you put a mirror in front of them, they just reverse it again. Like if you say, why didn't you try to force me to play the violin for a bit longer? Like, why did you let me just quit after a week? And if you say that to your parents, it's just like it's just a mirror that just gets reversed, like, or gets put back towards you again so quickly, where they just say, like, well, you could have not quit, not wanted to quit. They just did what you wanted, and they just that was your wishes, and they fulfilled your wishes, and that's not a crime. They don't believe that's a crime, and they just don't think like it was your responsibility and it wasn't theirs, and they just gave you all the. They just gave you the foundation, and whatever you may build up on top of the foundation was your responsibility. Like, if you didn't want to build anything, that was also your responsibility. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's all I have for you, I think. Group number 3, I hope this reading was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want a personal reading from me, check the description box below for more information on how to get one. And yeah, have a great day, and bye. Hello, group number 4. You chose this tarot of a Moon Garden tarot deck, and I will start with some channeling, and then I will shuffle the cards for you, group number 4. So, Spirit, how did group number 4's family see them as a child? How did group number 4's family perceive them as a child? I'm sensing that for some of you, you were a bit isolated as a child. Or maybe the family was isolated from the rest of the family, or like your nuclear family was isolated from like the extended family. I'm just sensing like that you didn't have a lot of people around you, like your grandparents or cousins or uncles, or like there wasn't a lot of that going on. It was much more like just the nuclear family being together. And I think this bothered you. I think you were quite bothered by it. I think your parents felt like this was like, if you have other siblings, I feel like this was something that took more of a toll on you than it did your other siblings. Like for your other siblings, like it wasn't such a big deal for them as it was for you. I think you might have talked to your parents about how you would like to spend some time with your grandparents or your cousins, or your like, that it would be nice if there were like family dinners or family parties with the extended family. And I think like this was kind of painful for your parents, because I think the reason why there wasn't a lot of the reason why there wasn't a lot of communication, or a lot of like I think there was something about, like, I think your parents weren't really in contact with the extended family. I don't know why, but it seems like it might have been a big conflict. Maybe even before you were born, that like something happened. Where it just like where your parents just either moved away or just withdrew from the family and didn't look back, like they didn't want anything to do with them anymore, because of something that happened, something very, very difficult, I think. A lot of bad blood there. And so I think there was something, like, I think your parents saw that it was affecting you when you were a child. Like, they could see that that you actually were missing something. Maybe you were also the oldest sibling. If you have other siblings, you might have been the oldest, and so maybe you remember a time where the family actually was on speaking terms, and maybe your siblings don't actually remember that time at all, and so it's not something they miss, or they didn't miss it when they were children. Like they didn't know what they were missing, like what they were missing out on, and I think you knew what you were missing out on, and I think your parents could see that you felt like you were missing out on having an extended family. So I'm sensing like that your parents saw you as very isolated, like very lonely also. With the Temperance card, I think your parents saw you as very very balanced, like a very harmonious kid. Like, there wasn't a lot of you didn't have a lot of issues, but you had some, like, you might have been a bit lonely, and maybe you also had some troubles making friends. And maybe this also took a toll on you, this feeling like the whole extended family had abandoned your family, might have made you develop some abandonment issues, like maybe the friends that you had as a child were not the most, maybe not the most what's it called, like wholesome. Like, it might not have been very, like, your friendships might not have been very wholesome. Like, it might have been, they might have been slightly toxic, maybe because you felt like everybody could leave you at any point. Like you always had to make sure that everyone liked you and that they wouldn't leave you, that you were being good enough to them, or that you were treating them like specially so that they would never want to leave you. And so you might also have, like, put up with a lot of bullshit from your friends, like let them treat you horribly, because you felt like that was just something you had to accept that behavior, because not accepting it would maybe make them tired of you, and then they would leave you, and then, like, that's the worst case scenario, is that someone would leave you again. And so I think you were in some pretty bad friendships where it was very much on their terms and not on yours at all. Like they could, like, they had the power over you because they knew that you needed them more than they needed you, and that they knew that you were desperate enough to let them do whatever towards you without making a fuss about it. Like, you were being a good sport, like, not demanding anything, and not yeah. And I think your parents were aware of this. Like, I don't know if your parents were, like, if one of your parents were like a kindergarten teacher, or a teacher, or a psychologist, or something, like or that this person had a degree in something that had to do with either like psychology or child psychology, like, or children's behavior patterns or whatever. And I don't know, but I think that parent who had a degree, or maybe they both had, I don't know, but one or both your parents kind of saw it. Like, they saw that you had these abandonment issues, and I think they also kind of knew that it was because of the family abandoning, like the extended family abandoning them. I think they knew. Like they could see it. Like they could see like the cause and effect. Like that one thing led to the other. That when you were being treated, also before, I don't know if it was your parents that who left the extended family, or if they got kicked out of by the extended family. I don't really know, but either way, like I think if it was, I think back when, even though you you idolized it, or you made it, I think you, when you were a child, I think you remembered the time when the family was talking on speaking terms. I think you remember that time as a bit more harmonious than it actually was. Like, I think your parents remember it as this horrible time where the extended family would constantly criticize them and talk down to them and talk down to you, and make fun of you, make fun of them, and it was just a toxic environment. And I think already back then, I think your parents noticed the effect that the extended family had on you, like had on your self-esteem, and also wanted to spare you from that, but also that the whole in sparing you from it, they also like took you away from something that you then started to really miss. So it's kind of like a catch-22, like whatever you do, like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that I think do you say like on a limb, like on a limb, or I don't know, sorry, but I think like, even though this whole family thing seems to have really made a number on you in a bad way, and it had nothing, like it wasn't your fault, and it was out of your control, and it was really sad that it had such an effect on you. But I think your parents were quite great. They might not have done everything right, but I think they were sort of observant. Like they saw you struggling, like they saw, and they talked about it, and they talked about why, and they came up with theories about like what could be affecting your behavior, and what could be affecting your mental state. And like it seemed like they were actually very observant of you. But of course they also knew that they played a big part in making your life miserable. So it was kind of a double thing where they kind of knew it, but also like they were the ones who did it. Like they made some decisions to either move away from the extended family. Like I think that they made some decisions there too, that they could have done differently. Like they could have made other decisions that would have possibly made a better outcome. And they're very likely, and I think they know. And they knew that at the time as well, like that they had made a mistake in some way. Gonna shuffle some more cards about about how they saw you. Six of Wands. I think they actually saw you as, like, I think your parents and possibly also your sibling. Maybe this is more your sibling. I think your sibling or your siblings, I don't know if you have more, but saw you like they put you up on a pedestal, and possibly because you were the oldest, but I don't know. But I think you had a sibling that looked really up to you and thought everything you did was amazing, like everything, like, even though maybe it was a bit difficult for you to make friends, but I think you had someone in your life. If it wasn't a sibling, it could have been a cousin or something, I don't know, but I think you had someone in your life, a family member, I think, who really just thought of you as like a rock star. Like, maybe you got bullied in school, but this person, like, that didn't matter for this person, because this person just saw you as the coolest person. Like, everything you did was cool. Like, even just playing video games, that was cool. Like, seeing you play video games, seeing you be good at playing video games, like that's like I think you had someone who put you up on a pedestal. Your parents might also have done that too, like seen something very, very brilliant in you. But especially, I'm seeing more of a smaller figure, like a smaller person, like or like a child, maybe, looking up to you, looking up at you, and just thinking, "Wow, that's who I want to be when I grow up." So you had that too. Which I think is precious. I think maybe this is what really, like, saved you in some way. I don't know. Like, I think your life could have been very miserable if you hadn't had that one person. I think. I don't know. But I'm gonna ask about how they see you now, like how your family sees you now. So I'm gonna do some channeling about it. So, okay, group number 4, Spirit, can you answer this question for group number 4 about how their family sees them now? I think your family sees you as someone who has, like, everything under control, like everything, like you're on top of everything. You're like the rock of the family. Like, you can handle so much. Maybe also if you have a family of your own. I know that that's maybe specific for a few of you. So, but if you have a family of your own, I think your family sees that and sees how you're just doing everything right. Like, you're making all the right decisions for your own family. But even if you don't have a family, like, I think your family sees you as someone who's just, like, you make all the right decisions. You do everything right, and you're very good at giving advice on any topic. And I think they put you up on a pedestal now. I think most, also your parents, they see you as like you. There might also have been something you've achieved in life that your parents didn't achieve or wasn't able to achieve, and I think they are very proud of you, that you were able to do that. So yeah, but I'm gonna shuffle. So what does group number 4's family think of group number 4 now? I think they want you to like believe more in yourself. Don't get discouraged. Like sometimes I think you put a lot of expectations on yourself. Like you expect a lot from of yourself. You give everything your all. Like you want to do everything 100%, and I think your family wants you to kind of think of yourself sometimes, and like don't be so perfectionistic all the time. Sometimes it's okay to have as your job, like nobody is gonna die unless you're a doctor, but if you're not a doctor, then like half-assing your job from time to time is not the worst thing in the world. Like it's not, everything's not gonna crumble down just because you do a mediocre work at your job. Like it's so I'm also getting that your family kind of wants you to not expect so much of yourself, and sometimes it's okay to be a bit soft on yourself and not I think with the Hermit here, I think your family sees you as someone who's very reflective, like you're good at reflecting about yourself, and your childhood. I think your family thinks you're good at just reflecting and seeing how certain things have affected you in certain ways. And I think your family is very, like, they see you as very smart. They see you as someone who's very good at looking inwards. You're good at like introspection, seeing certain things, seeing certain flaws in yourself. Also, like that you're good at seeing your own mistakes, like seeing when you do something wrong, and you're very good at like correcting yourself quite quickly when you realize that you've been doing something wrong, and also that you're very good at accepting responsibility for it. And I think your family has sees you being very introspective, reflective, but also that you're maybe being too hard on yourself sometimes. Like sometimes it's okay to just say, well, okay, I made a mistake, whatever. Like instead of, like, you don't always have to overanalyze everything you do. Like cut yourself some slack sometimes. With the Hermit, I also think like your family might feel like you're isolating yourself still a bit, like that every time things get really rough, you kind of go back to your childhood mode where, of course, when you were a child, you weren't really in control over the isolation. It was more like you were being isolated from the extended family, or from, like, I think it was more like out of your control. And like maybe you were also a bit isolated at school, but it wasn't your fault. It wasn't, but like you would have wanted, probably would have wanted to have friends, but it was just a bit hard for you to make friends or something like that. So it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a conscious choice, but it might have been something that turned into a very comfortable state of mind, or a very comfortable, like you might have at some point become very comfortable in the loneliness, or that it became like, it seemed simpler, or it seemed easier to just be alone. And maybe now, like even though you're far from alone now, I think like you have a lot of people around you that would very much want to spend time with you. But I think when things get really out of hand, or when things are really stressing you out, and you get really stressed out in life, or depressed, or feel bad about your life, or feel bad just in general, then maybe it's your go-to thing, where your way to cope with it is to isolate yourself, because it seems comfortable, it seems nostalgic, it seems like a coping mechanism that is like as old as the day, like the or how you say that, I don't know, but like as old as like time, like the first, like I don't know, but you know, it's something that has always been there, like, and you can get comfortable in the loneliness, even though it's uncomfortable, so like, but it can at times become a bit easier, like it's an easy cop out from all the people wanting something, or expecting something, or feeling like you have to be there for people, or feeling like you always have to deliver your 100%, or like always have to be someone people expect you to be, or like I think there might just, I think your family might see that you're isolating yourself, and that it might be because you're going through a lot of stress, and that it's your coping mechanism to like kind of get through it all. With the High Priestess, I think your family sees you as very smart, extremely smart and capable, and like they put you up on a pedestal because of your mental abilities, like your brain, like you're really, really good at analyzing, overanalyzing, but also just really good at doing whatever you're doing, like your job, or your studies, or whatever you're doing, like you're good at it, like you're very capable, very smart, but I'm also sensing that your family might see you as a bit mysterious, like you have a secret, or that you're not sharing everything, or that certain things in your life you keep for yourself. And maybe that is also something that they know is true, because there might have been times in your life where you sat on a secret that was really, really rough, like something was happening in your life, and maybe you didn't really tell your family about it, and then you told your family about it afterwards when they couldn't really do anything to help you, and I think this thing made them feel like a bit like it might have made them a bit paranoid, and then it might make them a bit paranoid now that, well, maybe you're sitting on a secret that is big, and then any day now they can get a call from you where you tell them that this and that and this and that has been happening behind their back without them knowing about it. And I think that is something that kind of scares them, that you're not being completely direct with your issues, you're not being open about it, you're not talking about it, and they are afraid they are going to find out about it afterwards when there's nothing they can do about it. And so they kind of want to get ahead of it and try to, like, maybe push you into talking about it, so that they can get it out on the table. But I think it is a bit hard for them. Maybe there isn't even anything going on, but I think it's just something that is always going to be there in your family, where they feel like maybe there's something you're not telling them. And I think that scares them a bit. But yeah. My advice to you would be to be more open with your family about these issues, and if you have something to talk to your family about, talk to them about it now, because they really want to help, and they would drop everything they have in their hands and come to you and help you and stay at your apartment and live there and be your au pair for a year and just help you with everything if they could. Like that, I don't know, but they don't have anything to do with their life. Some of them, some of them feel a bit useless and feel like maybe they need to also be able to help you. Maybe it would be cathartic for them. Like maybe you're robbing them from a good experience by not asking them for help, because maybe they would feel good. Maybe your family would feel really good if they actually could help you with something, so that they don't just hear about it afterwards and feel bad for not being there for you. Like I think they really want to have the opportunity to actually stand up and and actually come and be of any help for you. So yeah, I think that yeah. So yeah, but that's all I have for you, group number 4. I hope this reading was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want a personal reading from me, check the description box below for more information on how to get one. And yeah, have a great day, and bye. Hello, group number 5. You chose this Miss Cleo's tarot deck, and I will start with some channeling, and then I will shuffle the cards for you, group number 5. So I'll do the channeling now. Spirit, can you answer this question for group number 5? How did group number 5's family see them as a child? Okay, so I think they saw you as very I think your family saw you as like, the word that's coming in is fucked up, but I know that is not really what it means in this context. It's more that that's something that, it's not that you were fucked up, like it was that something fucked you up. Like And I think that's more it, that something happened in your childhood, and I think it was really hard. And I think it did a number on you. And I think your family was aware that that something had happened to you that was difficult for you, and you were going through something that took a toll on you. And for some reason, I feel like this was something that you were going through. And I feel like your family wasn't going through the same thing. Like, I feel like it's more something that you, like, it was more something you went through alone. Like your own personal journey through something that was really, really, really tough. And I think it's, for some reason, I feel like your family didn't really know what was going on, or they didn't really know what it was like being you. Like they didn't know because they weren't going through the same thing. So they didn't know how to really be there for you, because they didn't really know what you needed. Because yeah, I feel like it wasn't a thing that like you were definitely going through something really. Okay, with 10 of Wands, that makes a lot of sense. Like I think you had a lot on your plate. Like you had a lot that you were struggling with. It could have been an eating disorder, or something else, like personal stuff, something like like also something with your sexuality, or something that happened to you that was like that overstepped your boundaries sexually. Of course, I don't want to trigger anyone. That was, of course, a horrible thing, and I hope it's not the majority of you that went through something like that. But I just wanted to put that out there. But I think like your family, like whatever it was you were struggling with, I think your family felt like it was something from the outside that fucked you up. Like it seems like they had someone to blame for it. And I think they went around being very, very like mad that this happened to you, and of course it could still have been an eating disorder, like, but it could have been induced by something that happened, like some idiot kid in your class might have said something about your weight, and it might have spiraled after that or something, and then your parents got really mad at that child for being an idiot or something. Like with the Fool card, like I feel like there might have been someone who did something without thinking, or who put you in a position that was where they put you in danger. There could have also been something like that where someone put you in danger, and I think your parents were really mad that that this happened while they were not there. Like I think like there could have been like someone who had the who drove you around while drunk or something, and without your parents knowing about it, or maybe it was one of your parents and the other parent was mad because of that parent fucking you up, or giving you the or maybe something about like maybe your parents got divorced, and so like the one parent was like blaming the other parent for fucking you up by driving drunk with you in the back seat, or having shady types of people around the apartment, and or something. And I think that was one of the, I think your family saw you as, also your extended family might have seen you as like someone who was very unfortunate. And I don't know if this has something to do with your parents. It could still maybe have something to do with your parents. Like maybe your extended family felt like you were unlucky for having those parents, like even though that was their family. But I think they might have just known what types of people your parents were and felt like that was that they weren't fit to be parents, or that they were too young, or too naive, or too just too immature or something. I don't know. But I'm not certain. But I think you had some issues. I think, and I think your parents weren't good enough to give you any help with it or something. I think you were very much left to just deal with it on your own. But I think they saw you as someone who could still handle it, that even though you had a lot, and you had a lot of obstacles, like your childhood was one big obstacle course, and I think there was a lot of things that just were thrown at you, and I think your family, I don't know if it was your nuclear family or your extended family, but I think some of your family members looked at you as a bit of a hero, actually, for actually being able to survive through whatever you went through. That it was just that you were battling with something that was so big, and you were kind of left on your own a bit with it, and you survived. And I think yeah. I'm gonna shuffle some of these archetype cards here, just to get more of a sense of how your family saw you when you were a child. How did group number 5's family see? Okay, so with a blank card here, I think there definitely were some people in your family who didn't see you. And that's probably the ones who were supposed to see you, like maybe your parents. Maybe they weren't really very attentive enough to actually see you and see who you were and what you were all about and what you needed. And I think there might have been something about that, or it could have been the extended family, someone in the extended family, like grandparents or something like that, that should have been there more maybe, but weren't. But I'm kind of feeling like it was more your parents who weren't really stepping up to the role as parents. With a companion, I think there could have been something about your parents, or maybe especially your mom, seeing you more as a friend instead of as her child. Like and so maybe she was looking more for a best friend, like someone she could gossip with, someone she could talk shit about others behind their back, like, and I think your mother felt like she could do that with you, like she could do all the things that she would have done with a best friend. She could do that with you, and I think she was more like looking for company instead of actually looking for a child that she had to take care of, and maybe you were more taking care of her than she was of you. With the Pioneer card reversed, it says, like, the shadow attributes, they say compulsive need to keep moving on. And I think people might have, like, I think your family might have seen you as a child that was constantly on the move or constantly needed to like change scenery. Like you might have been like the child who kind of escapes away from the, like you might not have been around the house a lot when you were a child. Like you might not have been like in the living room watching TV a lot. Like maybe you were outside on the playground finding some friends, going out on adventures. Maybe you weren't really that much at home. Like maybe you were always out. And maybe it was because you didn't really like being at home. Like maybe you just were more like more comfortable being out and about, and maybe it was because being home wasn't very comfortable. Like maybe there was always like fighting going on between your parents, and maybe your parents were drunk, or maybe they were just not very fun to be around. And so maybe you escaped away from the house and went out and found people, found the playgrounds, and found people and found other children to play with. And maybe this was a coping mechanism. Maybe you needed to escape. Like also maybe it felt like when you were out playing with other children that you could be a child, whereas when you were at home in your house, you felt like you had to be the parent, like you had to be the parent to your parents, like you had to be the one actually doing all the things around the house, making sure everything was like taken care of, like then you had some kind of role. But when you were out playing with other children, you could just be a child and not play a role. And so maybe that was also like something you needed. I'm gonna shuffle some cards about like how your family sees you now. I'm also gonna do some channeling about it. So, Spirit, how does group number 5's family see them now? How does group number 5's family see group number 5? I feel like maybe it's a bit of a touchy subject for some of your family members, at least. I think it's hard for some of them to kind of I think it might be hard for your parents, or maybe one of your parents, to think about you right now. Maybe because you've confronted this parent about some of the hard things that went on in your childhood. And so maybe the wound is a bit fresh right now, but I'm just sensing that this parent has a really hard time thinking about you in general, like right now, like because thinking about you makes this person remember all the things that they did wrong and all the things that they wished they had done differently. I think there is especially one person in your family who's really, really sad about what happened and really wished that they could have done something and that they had done something differently. And I think they see you as someone who has, like, despite your bad odds, you've come a long way. Like I think also many of your family members feel like you've actually come a really long way, and like I think many of them hadn't expected that. Because of your childhood. So but I'm gonna shuffle some cards about how your family sees you now. Okay, so with the Ten of Swords reversed, I feel like your family sees you as someone who has, like, survived. Like, you survived something really, really tough, and you got, like, all these swords in your back, and it was really hard, but you've been able to flip it around so that the swords are, like, falling out of you, like it's that they are not stuck in you anymore, like they are on the way out, like like you're not as affected by all that has happened now as you were just a few years ago. Like it seems like there has been a lot of development just in the past few years, and I think your family sees that it's with Four of Swords reversed, I think your family sees you as someone who is maybe sometimes like you might get a bit like caught up in your own grief, which is very normal because you've been through a lot. But I think sometimes they feel like you have these I don't know why I would call them hot flashes, but like it's not hot flashes, but it's like you get these flashes of grief, like all of a sudden where you like maybe you have some PTSD or something, childhood PTSD or something from childhood trauma, and maybe sometimes you get these flashes where like it just happens and you remember something and it's really difficult, and then like so you have to have some days to recover from it, but then other times you seem to be actually doing very well. So it's with the Empress here, I think some of your family members feel like it's the Empress is reversed here, so like I think they feel like some of your family members who are not your mom feel like you need to separate yourself from your mom. Like you need to find a way to somehow move on from your mom. Like your mom is somehow weighing you down a bit. And with the Temperance, I think like even though you have these things that you struggle with, I think your family sees you as someone who's very balanced and very harmonious. Like you've come a long way, and like with all the obstacles that you've had to overcome, you have gained some peacefulness or some calmness where you seem much more peaceful now. Like you seem more steady. Like it seems like yeah, like you're stronger now, and that you're stronger because of everything that has happened, that has made you very strong. But also with the Empress, if it's not your mom, the Empress reverse could also mean that like that your family members are maybe seeing you as someone who hides away your feelings, or that you're not really in touch with your feelings, that you're maybe not acknowledging all your feelings, and sometimes you might underestimate them, and you might miss all the signs. Like maybe you have panic attacks sometimes, and like your family members might notice it. Like they might notice that it's like on the way, like because they can tell like the small signs that you're gonna freak out, or that you're gonna have, like that you're gonna panic. But it's like they might feel like you're so determined on just moving on and acting as if you don't have any issues, like there's nothing that's dragging you down. You don't want your mental state to drag you down. Like you just want to move on and do everything like normal people, or like I don't know. But I think your family feels like you need to acknowledge more what your, like that you have certain certain disadvantages also. Like I think also your family, like especially I think it's more your extended family, like your grandparents, even like maybe if your grandparents are dead, like I'm kind of getting some ghost vibes also, but like I think there are just people in your family who just wants you to acknowledge how difficult your life has been. Acknowledge that you're not the same as everybody else. And acknowledge that you've come a long way and you've overcome more than everyone else around you. And when you're in a school setting or at a job or whatever, like don't compare yourself to your classmates or your co-workers. Don't think like why can they do this when I'm struggling with it, or like why can everybody else seem to do everything while I'm struggling to do things half time or something like that. But you just have to remember that like it's not, you can't do this comparison because you've been through so much, and everybody else who would have been through the same would have the same obstacles as you have, if not more obstacles, but because you're very strong and you don't, I think some of your extended, like I feel like it's extended family, like feel like you should be more proud of yourself, like pat yourself on the back and say like you're really, really, really tough and awesome for being able to get this far in life with all the things that have been tossed like at you, like all the things that has been all the obstacles that you've had, like it's and yeah, don't compare yourself to others. Remember that you've done something that many others couldn't. Many others failed to do. You survived something where many people in your place, I feel like that many people in your place might have not been strong enough. And so I'm also sensing that maybe some of you were suicidal in your teenage years or something like that. And things could have gone a lot differently for you, I feel like. And I think your family knows that it could have gone very differently, and that you need to remember that like tell yourself that more times than you do now, like that you survived this, and that is amazing. Like, I don't know, but and pat yourself on the back and don't compare yourself to people who haven't had 5%, not even 5% of your problems and issues and troubles and grief and sorrow, and like it's not a fair comparison. So yeah, but that's all I have for you, group number 5. I hope this reading was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe to my channel, and if you want a personal reading from me, check the description box below for more information on how to book one, and have a great day, and bye.